Apollo 11 was the historic spaceflight that first landed humans on the moon and returned them safely to Earth. Conducted by NASA as part of the Apollo program, this mission fulfilled President John F. Kennedy's 1961 goal of landing a man on the moon before the end of the decade. On July 20, 1969, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to set foot on the lunar surface, while Michael Collins remained in orbit aboard the command module. This monumental achievement remains one of the greatest milestones in human history, marking the dawn of a new era in space exploration. The origins of the Apollo 11 mission can be traced back to the Cold War-era space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. After the Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1 in 1957, and followed it up with Yuri Gagarin's first human spaceflight in 1961, the U.S. intensified its efforts to assert technological and ideological supremacy in space. In response, President John F. Kennedy delivered his famous speech at Rice University on September 12, 1962, declaring, "We choose to go to the moon." This ambitious goal led to the Apollo program, a series of missions designed to develop the necessary technology and expertise to land a crew on the moon and bring them back safely. After a series of precursor missions, including Apollo 8, the first human mission to orbit the moon in December 1968, and Apollo 10, a full rehearsal of the moon landing in May 1969, NASA deemed Apollo 11 ready for the historic first attempt at a lunar landing. The mission was carried out by a three-member crew: Neil Armstrong, commander, who was responsible for piloting the lunar module, and became the first human to walk on the moon; Buzz Aldrin, lunar module pilot, who played a key role in scientific experiments and navigational operations on the lunar surface; and Michael Collins, command module pilot, who piloted the Columbia command module, remaining in lunar orbit while Armstrong and Aldrin conducted their activities on the moon. Apollo 11 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center in Florida on July 16, 1969, at 9:32 a.m. EDT, aboard the massive Saturn V rocket, the most powerful rocket ever built at that time. The launch was witnessed by nearly 1 million spectators on site and broadcast to millions worldwide. After entering Earth orbit, the spacecraft underwent the translunar injection (TLE) maneuver, propelling it toward the moon. The spacecraft consisted of 3 modules: Command Module Columbia, where the crew controlled the mission; Service Module, which provided propulsion, life support, and power; and Lunar Module Eagle, the lander that descended to and later launched from the moon. The journey to the moon lasted about 3 days, during which the astronauts conducted system checks, monitored their trajectory, and prepared for the lunar descent. Apollo 11 entered lunar orbit on July 19, 1969, completing several orbits around the moon. On July 20, 1969, Armstrong and Aldrin transferred into the Eagle lunar module, undocked from Columbia, and began their descent to the moon's surface. The descent was fraught with tension. A series of computer alarms sounded due to an overloaded guidance computer, which nearly led to mission abort. Armstrong took manual control of the lander to avoid a boulder-strewn area, piloting the Eagle to a safe landing in the Sea of Tranquility at 4:17 p.m. EDT. Armstrong's famous words were broadcast to NASA's Mission Control in Houston. "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." Several hours later at 10:56 p.m. EDT, Armstrong stepped onto the moon, uttering his historic words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Aldrin followed him 19 minutes later. The two astronauts spent 2 hours and 15 minutes on the moon, conducting various activities, such as collecting lunar rock and soil samples, 47.5 pounds or 21.5 kg, deploying scientific instruments, taking photographs and videos, planting the American flag, and speaking with President Nixon, who called from the White House. A plaque was left on the moon, reading, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." After 21 hours and 36 minutes on the lunar surface, Armstrong and Aldrin returned to the Eagle, redocking with Columbia, where Collins had been waiting. The Eagle was jettisoned and left in lunar orbit. Apollo 11 began its return journey on July 22, 1969, re-entering Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 mph. The command module parachuted into the Pacific Ocean on July 24, 1969, at 12:50 p.m. ADT, about 812 miles southwest of Hawaii. The crew was retrieved by the USS Hornet and immediately placed in quarantine for 21 days to prevent possible contamination from lunar microbes. Apollo 11 remains one of the most significant human achievements. The mission demonstrated that space travel and lunar exploration were possible, paving the way for future exploration. Its impact extended beyond science and engineering. Geopolitically, the US effectively won the space race against the Soviet Union. Technologically, the Apollo program led to developments in computing, telecommunications, and materials science. Perhaps most importantly, the mission inspired generations to pursue careers in science, engineering, and space exploration. In subsequent years, 6 more Apollo missions landed on the Moon. The artifacts and samples collected from Apollo 11 continued to provide valuable scientific insights. The mission was more than just a spaceflight, it was a defining moment in human history. It symbolized the limitless potential of human ingenuity, perseverance, and exploration. The courage of Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, and the thousands of engineers, scientists, and technicians who made the mission possible left an enduring legacy that continues to inspire humanity's quest to explore the cosmos. As Neil Armstrong's footprint remains undisturbed on the Moon, so too does Apollo 11's legacy remain an indelible mark on the history of civilization.